Hi, I'm Marcel and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. I am doing Criminoli's Read What You Own, where I had my husband pick out 100 books from a bookshelf that mostly I haven't read, pack them up, and I am drawing them one at a time to read what I own. And I have just finished with Arve Kalvøy's Our Friends the Chinese. This is in Norwegian, which is my first language. This is a form of semi-biographical book about a project that Arve Kalvøy, who is a Norwegian author, comedian, TV personality, stuff like that, and he had a project where he wanted to eat at a Chinese restaurant in each of the 158 municipalities in Norway that had a Chinese restaurant up to that year that this book came out, which is 2007. Arve Kalvøy is known for coming from a small place on the west coast of Norway. So he talks a lot about sort of the dynamic between the city and the countryside, about class, about how everything plays in regard to a fairly geographically large country, but with a very small population. So there are very few people living in Norway compared to a lot of other countries. So he uses this Chinese restaurants as a way of talking about immigration as something that isn't just happening in the cities, but is actually happening all over Norway, and what that does to especially small villages, in lack of a better word, in Norway, when Chinese restaurants and then, so i.e. immigrants, come and change up the way that these small villages always have lived their own life. And he has some beautiful phrases in this book that reflects so much about this. So, for example, he talks about a small village that each year has a festival that celebrates the fact that we had a lot of people from Norway who emigrated from Norway into the US, and reflects on the difference between emigration, that is leaving a country, and how that is viewed as wonderful and strong and powerful, and immigration, that is entering a country, where you are very often viewed as a problem. Emigrators are wonderful and strong. Immigrators is a problem. They're different. And that made me sort of think about, well, one of the reasons why that might be is because emigration is something you talk about regarding your own, while immigration is defining someone as the other. They are coming here instead of one of us is going over there. So there are a lot of sort of little tidbits about this book, and this book is in this category of being so quintessential Norwegian that it doesn't really make sense for anyone else to read it, because there is so much about sort of the way Norwegians understand what it means to live on the countryside, what it means to live in a small village, how you then deal with change, which is different from culture to culture. that you sort of think that you wouldn't really get it. At the same time, if you want to know something very essential about Norwegian culture, this is the book to read. And all the time while reading this book, I just talked to my husband that this came out in 2007, and I want a documentary in 2 years, 2027, 20 years later, doing a follow-up. And I loved the fact that he is sort of taking pictures from these small places and sort of in general just talking about how these Chinese restaurants are sort of making a place for themselves in these rural areas, and how they have to create something that is not authentically Chinese, yet not authentically Norwegian, but something new, something that hasn't really been seen anywhere else. They're creating a new culture. That is, they're developing the Norwegian culture and the Chinese culture to be a form of Norwegian Chinese culture aspect to it. And so he has a lot of pictures, and he uses a lot of anecdotes, and he writes very much like he would just be telling you these stories. And I just wanted to find a specific picture to illustrate a bit about one of the things that he is talking about, and this is one of the pictures. So he talks a lot about this kind of pictures, that in these Chinese restaurants, yes, they have Chinese food, which is the first one there, but they also promote having Norwegian food and pizza, which also was quite exotic when Arve Kalvøy was a young child in the early 1970s. Brilliant book. And if you are Norwegian, read this to understand something about our culture. And sadly, I have no hope of that ever being translated into English. But if anyone has any examples of that kind of books, if you understand what I mean with that kind of books, about another culture, please let me know, because I would love to read that kind of book for a different culture, to really, again, understand another culture. So I'm going to pick out the next one from my jar of numbers, and the next one is 47. Now I have to try and remember, that's 50. So this is 47. As again, my husband chose and wrapped all of these. I have no idea which books they are. And this is Knut Nærum, Norwegian Literature History, after memory. So Knut Nærum is another one like Arve Kalvøy, who is he's a TV personality, he's a writer, comedian, and in this book he is it seems like he's doing the same project that Arve Kalvøy was doing with his Chinese restaurants and immigration, but here discussing Norwegian literature and the Norwegian literature